And I want to go into this because I feel like this is a thing that I wish I would have known when I was starting out. Because I feel like I wasted a lot of time focusing on stuff that didn't really matter that much.
Whoa. Careful there, wild man.
Easy,
Tiger.
Oh. Welcome to the podcast. MFJJ over to my right, Brandon McDonald. Follow me at Brandon McDonald _archery on Instagram. Follow Josh at Podium Archer on Instagram. You are obviously watching the YouTube channel that I run here because we do not have a name for the podcast, and until we name it, I am not putting it anywhere else. We have a discount code. Discount code BMAC. That's discount code BMAC at podiumarcher.com. Josh is very kind and he always tells you to shop at your local store, but I don't want that at all. I want you to shop at podiumarcher.com and use my discount code because Josh is going to take me to Hawaii. No, a portion of the money that comes in from that is basically going to be setting up a future hunt, and maybe we will take one of you with us. Today we are going to, what are we going to drink? What are we going to drink and what are we going to talk about? But first, we have to answer the question about what are we going to drink. Are we going to go with more of the Elijah Craig?
What are you feeling there, big guy?
Elijah Craig small batch. You know what? I tell you what, we don't even have to agree. What if we both just pick the one that we want? So we've got Elijah Craig small batch, which is Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, which is a pretty it's fine. It's a pretty basic, easy bourbon to drink. And then we have one of the most nasty scotches, just a righteous PD bitch. Ardbeg, Wee Beastie, 5 years old.
Well, here's what I feel here, since we did this previous one when we had popped that and drank it, and I kept giving you the ridiculous faces every time I drank it. We don't have any of that recorded, so I probably need to drink that just to see how poorly I react to it.
This is perfect. All right, we're gonna do this again. So dirty glass, because we recorded a podcast earlier. Fun thing, we recorded a podcast. A lightning strike took the power out and killed all the cameras and deleted the footage, so we had to re-record that podcast. And now we're doing round 2, but it's actually round
really
3.
Yeah, and it was moderately less enthusiastic, unfortunately, because it's harder to sit there and talk a subject that you just talked about, and be as excited, you know.
Absolutely.
And it was such a great flow too.
It was good, but guess what? Hey, this is brand new, and you've got a new rejuvenated. Look at that. That's a finger and a half. That's a lot. What did I do?
A lot of nastiness. You're gonna go again? Here, let me give you way more than last time.
Did a deep pour.
This should be interesting.
Oh my God! I almost took us to the bottom of the hat. Look at that. That's a lot.
Is that
okay?
A lot?
Listen.
Oh boy.
You don't have to go that hard. So here's the topic. I was curious what the most searched questions on the internet are about archery. And so I just want to go basically through these. And a lot of it is going to be people that are new to archery. So if you're new and you're watching this, this is the right place for you. If you are used and you are here, get it? New and used? Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah. All right. No, if you've been here for a while, we're definitely going to throw some stuff in that is probably a little more Josh information, like a little bit more advanced. But some of these questions are actually super interesting. Sure. Number 6. No, it wasn't number 6. Number 5. Does archery improve health? And that's a really interesting one. That's the 5th most searched question when it comes to archery. How is that possible? And there are no hunting questions in here.
Isn't that wild?
Is ChatGPT lying to me?
Well, Chat GPT.
GPT, good job.
Thank you, Chat GPT.
Chat LGBT.
I have been caught in a lie with them more than once. In fact, this would have been deleted from the previous one.
We
talked this up.
That's right.
We were driving through because Jeff and I drove from Washington to Nashville and made stops along the way out of sequence to make it an over 40-hour drive. And our last stretch was driving through from Des Moines to Nashville. And we stopped in St. Louis, Missouri, because we Chat GPT'd whether or not First Form had a retail location at their warehouse. And it said they had like a 20,000 square foot epic store. And we get there And we're like, where's the entrance? This is weird. There's like no signage that shows where the entrance is. There's the First Form logo on the buildings, right? And there were a couple of them, but there was no like come here thing. So we just parked and started walking around and get up to the door, and it says, I'm trying to remember exactly what it said. It said, if you are here to do business and you did not make an appointment, we do not want to do business with you because you are a moron, or something like that.
It's if you used an AI search robot to find out the fact that that's funny.
and granted, it's an entrance, right? But we're like, this can't be it, right? And then some dude was coming up that was going inside, and he talked to us for a little while and told us what the deal was and all that.
And he was like, "You're a moron."
No, he was actually pretty cool. We just said, well, we were just driving through town, thought you might have a retail location, so we stopped, and he said, no, there's a Wally's right up the street here that has all the stuff in there. You can go check it out there, but no, we don't actually have a retail location. Then started asking a bunch of questions about who we were and that kind of thing.
There's lots of dudes in the archery world that have like the First Form hookup. Yeah. And go to all the events and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. If you need to know some people in the industry, I'll hook you up if you need that. You
I'm
just
already,
tell me.
I'm already talking about
No. You just tell me. I'll make my people talk to your people.
Oh, is that how it is?
Yeah.
Okay. God, lovely. Lovely. But side note, Wally's is the shit. Have you been in a Wally's?
I thought you were just using Walmart's nickname.
No, it's a gas station called Wally's.
No.
Unbelievable.
In St. Louis?
Yeah.
Wally's?
Yeah.
Did you get mugged while you were there?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay.
Although I know it's
St.
like
Louis
the crime capital of the world.
It's a shithole.
Yeah.
I love you. If you're from St. Louis, good job making it this far.
Yeah, right. But Wally's is unbelievable, dude.
I've never heard of this.
It's this giant gas station.
Is it like a Buc-ee's?
I don't know. Maybe.
Have you ever been to a Buc-ee's?
I have not been to a Buc-ee's.
Oh my gosh.
I could have sworn it was called Wally's. It's not No, it's got to be Wally's. It was called Wally's.
I'm sure it's probably Wally's.
Yeah.
Buc-ee's. Okay, tell me what Wally's is.
Cleanest gas station I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, good start.
Giant bathroom.
Yep.
Amazing selection of, snacks and foods and whatnot. And they have like fresh smoked meat. This sounds like a Buc-ee's.
I'm sure it sounds
just like it.
I gotta look.
Up. Maybe it is. I could have sworn it was Wally's.
Wallys?
Yeah.
Wally's, St. Louis. That's Sally's. Come on, Brandon. Use your dexterity. Yeah. Wally's?
Maybe I got it wrong.
Dude, maybe it's a Buc-ee's. No, Wally's convenience store.
Yeah. Dude, it was unbelievable.
Okay. So
I had a freaking fresh. Yep, that's it.
Okay.
I had a fresh beef brisket sandwich.
And it was pretty good?
It's thick sliced. I'd have paid $20 for the damn thing. It was so good. And dude, everything was like, I'm like, oh my God, this is what gas stations should aspire to be.
Okay, there's two
like
of these. That's it. There's only two in the entire world.
They were awesome.
If you've never been to a Buc-ee's.
I've never been to a Buc-ee's.
Everybody in like Texas and other areas in the Southeast is just shitting in their pants right now.
Yeah.
Because Buc-ee's, I'll show you some pictures. Buc-ee's is going to blow your mind. Okay. I'm not exaggerating when I say they'll have like 150 places to fill up for gas.
Yeah, there was a shit ton of places for gas.
So probably Wally's is like doing the same exact thing as Buc-ee's.
Knockoff.
Again, this is the archery content that the people wanted.
Of course it is.
Absolutely. If you're still here, like and subscribe. All right, let's go look at ChatGPT. Okay, is archery expensive? That's what it's saying is one of the top searched things on the internet.
That actually makes sense to me.
Okay, so tell me about, is archery expensive? Because archery, expensive is relative.
Well, it depends on what kind of archery you're trying to do, really. But let's just take the bottom to the top.
That's what I want to know. Is what do you think the bottom end is to get in if you're an adult male? Like if you're like a 20 to 30-year-old adult male.
If you're not trying to hunt, you can get a takedown recurve for $130.
What type of draw weight are we looking at?
You can get that in a 40-pound weight if you want. You can get it in a functional hunting weight. For 130, 150, somewhere in there, half a dozen arrows for $50, and you go shoot. You should probably have a finger tab and an arm guard and things like that.
Yeah, you need a target.
I mean, well, that depends.
Hay bale?
Maybe you got something at home you can shoot at that might stop an arrow when it's a recurve, but it's not coming out that fast. Or You get. Oh, sorry.
Hey, listen, get your shit together. We're
Sorry, I know.
podcasting.
Well, I should have gone and grabbed. I've got like a quarter of an energy drink in the
no,
truck.
no, no, don't do
pounded
that. You got to drink this. You got to drink the
I will
yard
drink
bag,
that,
son.
but it would pick me up a little bit.
Yeah,
before
no,
I
you're fine.
depress me down. So, but you can get a Matthews Genesis for like or $200, right? And that's kind of like a compound, kind of not. Your more entry level adult male compounds, you're gonna be $500 minimum realistically.
Do they make any? Do they make any like kits that are $500, like with everything?
Yeah, that's a kit with everything.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
so
Whisker Biscuit.
five, six somewhere in there for basic stuff. That's a Whisker Biscuit, a sight.
No arrows though.
No, but you once again,
Yeah,
you can get cheap arrows.
Release.
You can get a release for $20.
Really?
Yeah,
$20?
yes, there are $20 releases.
I've seen the like plastic one that they sell at like Rural King. Have you seen that?
Mm-mm.
Dude, it's so
Is that a
sketchy.
True Fire thumb button, old school.
I don't know. It's like
one?
a plunger. It's plastic, and then it's got like a
the
literal
original
old one.
Yeah. That was
Yeah,
one of
like
the original ones.
$4.99.
Oh, that sounds
Yeah,
terrifying.
it's scary.
So yeah, but there are cheap options. So you can, realistically, you can get rolling a couple $100 and play.
That sounds kind of like not
Hunting,
fun,
you're
though.
probably 5-6.
Yeah, but even okay,
you're
the
gonna
hunting
hunt with
rig doesn't sound terrible. But like, what do you think the bottom of the barrel is price wise for something that you or I would shoot and we could appreciate what that was? So like experienced people who are experienced shooters
Grand,
could shoot it and go, you know what, this is a really solid place to start.
$1,000.
1,000.
Equipped, yeah. Which I was planning on making a video about.
You should.
I will.
I want
About
you to have an
your set.
MFJJ corner at Nashville North Archery, by the way, open now, NashvilleNorthArchery.com. It's Josh's new shop in the Nashville metro area. I want you to have like an MFJJ rack that's basically like your selections, and one of those would be like best value stuff, which just like bang for the buck, so that people
Yeah, I
could
remember you
walk
talking
in
about
and
this
buy
early
like price
before we
point
opened it.
stuff,
Yeah.
where you could literally just go down and be like, here's the bow, here's the rest,
Sure.
here's the arrows, here's the blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
And they would just buy that stuff. And then like mid-level and then like high-end.
Gotcha.
Just MFJJ Ultra View all the way down.
We're actually going to give Ultraview their own section. Just
Are you?
Just for you.
Yes.
You can have your smiling face right next to it.
Yes, it'll just be me above it, smoking a cigar with the
Hold it,
Rolex
buddy.
out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
like
Oh, we got the Matthews and the Hoyt promo loop videos going in the rooms finally. I figured that out the other day. Yeah.
Good. And I think that you guys need on the main TV, every time I've gone in, they've had like sports or something like that. You need some hunting videos going.
It depends on what's going on. Like if you're on there on a Saturday and it's some SEC related thing.
I don't. Are you talking about football all of a sudden?
It was a division of college athletics, not football necessarily. It's basketball right now. I don't pay
If
much
it's not
attention to it,
WNBA, I'm not in.
yeah, but the majority of the time that's not actually going on, and they do have hunting stuff.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, it's just on Saturdays they tend to put on a sport.
Okay.
Of some
yeah,
of
but
some sort.
the loop videos inside the Hoyt space and the Matthews space, that's legit.
Yeah,
That kinda
the
rounds it
Matthews
out.
video is like an hour and 10 minutes, and the Hoyt one's like on a 3-minute loop. So
Ah,
I
come
messaged
on,
him like,
Hoyt.
hey, I need something like bigger than this. This is not. I mean, it still looks cool, but if you're in there for more than like 3 to 5 minutes, you're like, I just watched this 3 minutes ago.
Hey, Hoyt, send me and Josh on a trip together and we'll get you a solid hour and 10-minute video.
Solid hour. And
It'll
10
be
minutes.
a solid hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'll even gladly shoot a Hoyt for that.
I would too.
Absolutely.
I would just shoot a Hoyt because I like them.
They're a good bow. They really are. They need to improve their tuning system, but it's a good bow.
Other than that, all right.
So it's been a good seller so far in Nashville too, and in Spokane.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I really do like the Hoyts. Like I
agree.
I'm a
Like,
big
if-
fan.
if
It's
they-
always in my top 3 for the
If
last
they
few
would
years.
work on their tuning system drastically, they could overtake Matthews if they got serious about it, because they're spending money like they are on people. They're trying to advertise like Matthews has advertised forever by lots of endorsement people and whatnot. Lots of, people putting out content about their product. They do that a lot. And Hoyt's finally realized that's a wise place to put their investments of financials. So they're doing the same thing.
This podcast is brought to you by Hoyt.
You would
See,
think, no.
we could listen.
Yeah. There you go. Oh, that's right. You're getting money. That's what you're going for.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, but so it wouldn't shock me if they go that route. And I do think I'll be really surprised if they don't address the tuning stuff next year.
Does Hoyt
Because
make
like people that I know that shoot for them have agreed that they really need to do something about
Okay,
that.
interesting. Does Hoyt make like Matthews has the Genesis line? Does Hoyt make a comparable line?
Well, the Genesis line is something that's exclusive to Matthews, or actually technically it's its own company. It's called Brennan Industries, but Matthews invented it, so they get labeled it. But it's a bow for schools and camps and things like that.
Okay,
So it's not something it's not something you hunt with ever.
Yeah, but I'm saying like Matthews has would an adult male shoot a Genesis?
They have a mission line.
Mission. That's what it is.
Yes.
Mission.
Hoyt doesn't. Now they have some lesser expensive bows in their line, but they're still not anywhere near the price of what the missions are. And Hoyt doesn't label them different. Matthews, I guess a long time ago, decided when they created that line that their name is synonymous with expensive, so they gave it a different name because people would just assume a Matthews entry-level bow is expensive.
I mean, that's fair, I guess.
There's not.
It's like
not
Lexus,
an untrue statement.
Lexus and Toyota, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of get that a little bit.
Yeah, they're both Toyotas, but Brandon really likes the Lexus.
Well, there's leather in it. In the leather
You can
has
get leather.
cross stitching and all that.
You
stuff.
can get leather in a Toyota.
I know, I have it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
It's calf leather suede. No, I'm just kidding. My if anybody saw my Forerunner, they would be like, "This guy likes expensive things." It's so
Well, you've made it very, very poignant to say you don't like spending money on things that don't appreciate, and that you don't have to spend money on in that regard, and that's why you run your vehicles forever, and why you can probably appreciate that I'm driving a 2002 F-150 out here.
Hell yeah, dude! You got it wrapped.
Oh yeah,
SVA on one side, NNA on the other side.
Yeah, and then the
investing in the shops
and the MFJJ logo on the hood.
I know, it looks badass.
Yeah,
that's a kick-ass logo.
It looked good.
It does. It looks great, man.
It looks really good.
Did you get people commenting on the way here? Did anybody like? You got recognized at some point coming across the country, getting some honks.
I'm trying to remember. We were
getting some beeps. Take your top off.
Well, we were like, I want to say like a third of it was at night. And it's a flat black wrap. So that's not going to really stand out in the crowd. But I'm trying to remember if we did. Like I traditionally would for the most part, but I don't.
Especially when you're going around archery places.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. All right, let's dive back in over here. So you think $1,000 typically minimum is kind of like the place that you would want to start. Are you buying a used bow for that price, or are you buying a new bow? You've talked about you're not a big fan of like buying a used bow, changing cables and strings, upgrading. Like I feel like I've heard you talk about that.
There's
before.
an argument to never do that, and it's a relatively safe one, and here's why. Technology changes as you go, right? So you can traditionally find in a lot of lines, not all the lines, but in a lot of lines, a step down or two that's lesser expensive, right? Good example. Let's say 3 years from now, you can buy something that they probably don't call a lift anymore in Matthews line at like a $900 or $1,000 price tag instead of a $1,400 price tag, right? So let's take that for an example. The technology over the next 4 years is probably not going to be drastic.
Okay.
We're going to be minimal, right?
More than likely, yeah.
More than likely.
Based on track
right?
record, yes.
So let's say you can buy a lift for $1,000. Like right now, you can buy a used lift for $950, right? And it's used, strings are used, has no warranty, right? Yeah. So if 3 years later, you can buy a brand new one with new strings and cables, which is traditionally about a $200 venture by the time you're all said and done.
Okay.
So the bow's $1,000. Now you got to look at it at $800, and then you got to ask yourself, what's a warranty worth? Dollar-wise. Is it $100? Is it $200? Like, pick a dollar amount, right? Well, then you got to go, can I buy a 4-year-old Matthews for $600 when it was $14? You typically can't. And you might need a module, which is another $60 to get the length and the weight changed.
Yeah, there's an argument for not buying a Matthews on that one then.
Well, but not all of them are that way. And like, okay, I bought a Hoyt. Well, what if you got the wrong side of the module for the older ones? And now all the Hoyts take a module, period. Like they don't pivot. It's
now the new ones do?
Yes. Yeah, they no longer have your big pivoting module.
I mean, if it's faster, I get it. And we've had that conversation before, by the way. You can look at up previous podcasts on this channel where we've talked about the modules specifically and why a rotating mod is not as efficient as individual mods. So you get more speed out of individual mods. It does kind of suck though. Like I've got a freaking drawer full over there and that kind of feels like a waste of money to me.
You think it's bad for you?
I've
you know how many
seen
I
the
have?
back of your shop, dude.
Yeah.
I've seen it. That's
that one. That's
Yeah.
nothing compared to how many I have at Spokane.
Yeah, that one's probably organized. Spokane, I imagine they're just freaking loose everywhere.
No, they're heavily organized, and I chew ass if they're not.
I can't imagine.
If I walk in and see a set of
disaster.
modules on the ground that aren't zip tied together, I start yelling at people. Because if you don't match them back together, one of those things is going to end up lost, and then it's worthless. You have to have the pair.
Ugh. But that's the
I don't like it anymore.
I hate that idea.
I don't like it any more than you do, but it's a reality.
Yeah.
It's the only way to make it as efficient as possible.
No, I get it.
That's the argument for why you would want to buy a new one.
Right. But see, I also wonder, does somebody, okay, let's just take it, we're in the nowadays.
Sure.
So Lift X, what's the new Hoyt aluminum bow?
Alpha X2.
Alpha. Okay. All right. So let's rewind.
A mouthful.
And let's go back to the Ventum. Okay, for Hoyt.
Sure.
Okay, so that's maybe 4 years ago.
Yeah, probably.
I think that's probably right. What do you think you can get a used Ventum for? You think you can find them online for $500?
I think it's higher than that. But if you give me less than 2 minutes, I can tell you exactly what they're going for.
I'm curious.
Right,
Let's just look it up, because this is what I'm curious about. Like, if the Ventum's a great bow, and so if I was going to go back and as a new archer, I was going to go, you know what? I want to find I want a Matthews. Let's say Traverse, because it was like my favorite Matthews, or a Ventum, or a Revolt X, or a Black 3. I'm talking like the bows that 5 years ago.
So right now, in the last week,
What are you looking on?
average, I'm looking at eBay.
Okay.
Average going price in the last week for a Ventum used, I would say, is around $700.
Oh, that's stronger than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And so by the time you
It
put new
varies.
strings and cables on there,
Yeah, so 9.
and you get everything, go to the shop, get everything tuned up, because you're probably, since you're buying it used off eBay, you're going to have to pay the shop to get everything set up.
Could be another 100-ish somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So 10.
Yeah.
1,000.
And then you're losing your warranty.
No warranty.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's much clearer if the bow is like 500. If that Ventum is $500, I say buy that used bow. But it becomes a little more muddy when it's 700.
Well, here's the other problem with doing that. And this is part of why you want to try to avoid used bows, is because the manufacturer has no legal obligation to replace a part for you. So if they get to a point with the Ventum, for example, you have a failure, right? Let's say you derail your bow, your cam bends. Well, and they don't have cams for that bow anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You're fucked. You can't buy one. Right? Now, if you had a warranty, they'd have to give you a new bow.
Okay.
Right? If that was their fault, right? Derail is a bad example because that's usually your fault. But say it's something that they did, or that that their product failed.
Yeah.
They have to replace it. Whereas if you don't have that, you're out the whole price of the bow. Then you got to ask yourself, what's that worth?
Yeah.
Because most manufacturers stop making parts. Matthews doesn't. They'll make you a part for the original. I think it was called the original.
That's the crazy
They
part.
will
is
still make you
Matthews
a
will
cam
just
for that.
make you one.
Yeah.
If
will
you need
make
it, they'll make it.
If you need it, they'll make it.
That's freaking cool.
Well, Matt believes in standing behind the products he's made his entire time, so he will do whatever to service the product.
I mean, so is that different then for you with a Matthews? Like if somebody loves a Matthews from, like they love a Z series, or they love something like that that's a little bit older, like does it change it for you? Not really.
If that's just what they want, what do you mean? Does it change?
Well,
it for me?
I'm sorry. The warranty with Matthews, the fact that you can get the part, even if it's not actually a warranty for you, you can get the part.
If I was going to buy a bow that I knew didn't have a warranty that was more than 5 years old, I'd probably only do a Matthews.
Okay.
Because I know the likelihood of if I blow a limb, I can get a new limb.
Okay.
If if the cam goes awry, I can get a new cam.
Okay.
If I looked at it from that standpoint, but that could also be partially why they tend to carry their value longer. It's because you can get a part from them, and they know you can get a part from them.
Okay. So the point of all this is basically there's a threshold of value that you basically have to get to where you're not shooting something that's just going to be not garbage, but kind of garbage that you're going to grow out of super fast if you're actually into archery and you actually really like it.
Garbage is pretty hard.
Well, I'm not talking about, I mean, some of it is garbage. Like some of it you will actually, like if you were shooting that plunger release that I was talking about,
that's fair.
you would literally be like, I don't like
fair.
doing this because this feels terrible.
That's fair.
So like, I think you have to get to a point where you go, no, this is what archery gear should feel like. Like there's nicer. There's a bow that's gonna feel a little bit better, and here's why.
Yeah,
but like I think you have to reach that minimum point where you get, this is what this should feel like, and these bows are capable of this is a doorway into the world that you can actually experience versus like some bullshit just foyer of that horrible
Sure.
you just don't want to feel that way because you're not going to enjoy it.
You don't get to bows that feel like the high-end bows today until you're in with the exception of maybe the Alaskan XT or some of the bears in that $500-ish range. You're going to be $700 to $800 on the bow itself without parts. To get to a bow that you're like, okay, this might not be quite as nice as those, but it feels like them. Like when it goes off, it feels like it. When you hit the back wall, it feels like it. There's similarities that say this might be close to as good as that. Like your Hoyt, I think they call it a Torx XT, if I remember right.
Yeah, Torx.
Yeah, that bow's pretty impressive for the money.
Prime had a value bow.
Prime had a Ronin around the $800 range.
Yep.
The Conquest from Darton is actually the best-selling mid-price bow we've ever had. It's almost everything their high-end bows have at like a $750 price tag.
What's okay?
What's the point?
Well, no, that's what I don't understand. Like why make a $750 bow?
It's easy to get you in the door.
Yeah.
It is. It's 100% get a seat at the table.
Okay.
It's Darton's making decisions in their company that are strictly based off getting back into the conversation.
Well, they're squeezing market share. If they don't care about competing in the $1,400 bow range for an aluminum bow, and they're like, no, we're going to own the 700. We're going to own the 750.
They do compare about it. This
no. I know that I know that they're becoming a bigger piece of the conversation there. Mm-hmm. But if they can own the $750 bow range, if they could own the $1,000 and below bow range, like they're the ones, then that's a big market share in that part. Competing for the like $1,200 to $1,400 range bow, that's a shit spot to be.
Yeah,
that's a rough place to compete.
Yeah,
because that's like the best of the best.
That's right. And there's a lot of competition there.
Yeah.
However, they're actually doing really well in that price range.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is a direct reflection of the Conquest last year when it first came out, which they replaced it with the Conquest 2. I don't think that's why. They brought a lot of attention because of the price point that they brought in and the quality of what the price point was. But their bows now have built-in wheeling adjustment and timing adjustment that doesn't require a press. And that's what the consumer's asking for. It's what I bring up a lot in my videos, but it's what the consumer's asking for. They want to be able to do it themselves.
Yeah.
And they're paying attention to that. And their market share this year, and this is a down year, right? Almost every bow brand's down in sales. They're double last year.
Wow, really?
But they're also not a big company. So it doesn't
take
take
but still,
that much
it doesn't
double.
matter. Like they're still double what they were last year. That's fantastic. Good for them.
Yeah.
Those 3 people working the garage. Congratulations, you guys. I'm totally kidding.
That was brutal.
I'm totally kidding.
Congratulations, boys. Take next Saturday off.
I'm totally kidding. All right. I have a sub question here that's based on that. If you had the option for better optic and a better release versus a better bow, like if you were spending your money and you were divvying it up between those, what would you prefer? Would you take nicer bow?
That's a trick question somewhat because I would want to know, can I never spend money on this again?
No, you can.
I'd take a nicer bow because it's a lot cheaper to replace a release or an optic than the bow.
Okay.
So if I had to pick one or the other and I could spend money later,
yeah.
I'd pick the bow.
Okay. Let's say then experience right out of the gate. Like let's say you're going to have it for a year and you want the best experience possible. It can be the same answer too, by the way.
probably not the same answer.
Okay.
They're probably like a better sight or a better release. Sight more than the release.
Yeah.
Just because your sight's going to determine how well you shoot distances over time and how accurate or inaccurate it is. And being able to proficiently hit what you're aiming at, is a large factor in staying in the sport.
Yes. That just nailed it right there.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's a way bigger deal than a lot of people. Like, if people aren't enjoying doing it, i.e. they're not having the success that they want to have, they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And the bow's going to freaking sit.
Our original introduction to archery classes where you shot up close at a big ass target.
I like that.
That's reality, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that the yellow and the target's that big around. They hit it, they're jacked.
Yeah, of course.
And it should be that big around the distance you're shooting at, but they don't care. They want to hit it. They want to hit the middle of the target, and that's all that matters. So
that's a great
move them up
point.
close, give them a big target.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Gonna feel a lot better about it.
All right, I love it. I love it.
Give them a proficient sight that you can easily move to your distances, so you can accurately hit what you're aiming at. That's probably the one thing that would make the most sense. Like if you're going to throw money at something, get a good sight. Get a good sight and make sure it's sighted in and adjusted correctly so you can duplicate what you're doing.
See, and I also think that if you get a great sight, it allows you to learn more things about archery in general, because it provides like learning about first axis, second axis, third axis, understanding different distances, understanding what it means when you're anchoring at 100 versus anchoring at 20. Like, I just feel like having a great sight allows you to learn more, because once a bow gets, like, if you've got a bow that's in time and you've got a bow that's tuned and basically in time, which the shop, in theory, if you got a good shop, should be able to do for you, then maybe that thing can kind of just sit, and then the sight is the next step up. Sure. Like as far as a learning curve goes.
Yeah, I mean, assuming we're dealing with a bow that can be tuned and is set in a tuned
that's
manner.
what I'm talking about. You don't want to buy something, but that's the other thing is you don't want to buy something so crappy that it's constantly going out of time.
Yeah, your bow, like the speed of the bow, isn't really a large factor into enjoying the bow itself.
What does Ranch Fairy call it?
A kinetic energy device?
Yeah. That's all it is, Josh.
Yeah, it don't matter.
Just a kinetic energy
Can be
device.
completely out of tune. It does the same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
As long as it's consistently out of tune.
Yeah.
He doesn't say that. That's not the point. Don't comment down below about that, by the way.
Yeah.
Don't comment.
Snip that into a 10-second clip and send it to Troy. Get him all pissed.
Hey, if you made it this far, like and subscribe. All right. I think that's probably good for that one.
You were phenomenal about saying that so much.
I need to do it way more. Yeah. Okay. Best bows for beginners. Best bow for beginners. Now, what it's saying is recurve. That's what it's saying here is recurve. But I don't think a recurve is the best bow for a beginner.
Well, it depends. If you're just doing it for fun, it actually very much is.
I mean, is that what you're doing it for? Yeah.
Once again, when we taught intro classes pre-COVID, we stopped doing it, but we'll probably have to bring them up again. We taught them all with recurves because it taught you the fundamentals of how to shoot, the real fundamentals, how to stand, how to hold, how to anchor, how to aim, how to look, how to orientate your body. Then those things transfer right over into compounds. So much of shooting a compound with sights and a peep and a release gets fixated on look through the hole, put the pin on the target, squeeze the trigger. That's all you're thinking about. You're not actually thinking about any form whatsoever.
Right.
Any fundamentals. So learning how to shoot a bow with a recurve is actually more beneficial.
When you have somebody learning a recurve, like I've seen Joel Turner with basically the arrow up by his eye. Mm-hmm. Do you have them?
That's not how you teach people how to shoot recurve in general.
I didn't.
So
figure.
he's face walking or string walking, depending.
And I've
on
never done it. Like I've messed around with it a little bit, but like I've never that's not my jam. So I'm as ignorant as a new person would be.
I've done it all.
So are you traditionally teaching somebody to anchor like down low?
So traditionally, when we would teach people how to shoot with a recurve, we'd have them shoot 3 fingers underneath the nock,
underneath,
and put the middle finger in the corner of your mouth.
Middle finger in the mouth.
Yeah. Okay. So now the arrow's up kind of about here.
Yep.
So you're still below it a little ways, but not perfectly, because when you're looking at Joel doing that, he's probably shooting close up at a target in that scenario, and he's probably shooting a relatively light arrow. and
Okay.
a decent amount of poundage. So his ballistics are flatter. So he's got to start at a higher point to have a point on at that point. And when you're face walking, you have references against your face at which you would hold your hand.
Oh, that's wild.
So you're bringing your hand down, so you're pointing the arrow higher.
Yeah.
Right? Well, string walking is you have a tab that has equidistant holes on it. So you put your finger up against the nock, and then you bring your thumb down to whichever hole you want to shoot for, and then you drop your hand down to where your thumb is. And then you draw back and shoot that way. So you're bringing the arrow up, bringing it down. It's like sighting.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty interesting.
And that's that when you see Joel with his hand there and stuff there, he's face walking. He's got references on his face, which my dad taught me how to face walk. That's how I always shot a recurve. I had like 5 or 6 different references on my face of where I held my hand.
Dude, that's so cool.
And then knew how high or how low to hold at those distances. Had a chart on the limb. Like took an old business card, flipped it over, and built a graph and said, all right, 5 yards you do this, 10 yards you do this, 15 yards you do this, 20 yards you do that. I can shoot out to 60 yards with a recurve.
Dude, there's something so like Native American about that. Like there's something so vintage human about that type of bow. Because you know that there was people back in the day that would just shoot lights out with that stuff.
Sure. Well, I did hunt with it for a little while before I went back to compound. I think I killed 4 or 5 big game animals with a recurve before I picked a compound back up when I was in high school still.
That's cool.
And it was just like, my customers use this. My customers don't use that. And I shot a recurve for 2 years straight, every day, didn't miss a day. Right? Hadn't touched my compound in 2 years. And one day I was like, I haven't shot this in forever. I'm going to pick this up. Hadn't shot it in a year and a half or 2 years. Shot a better group than I had ever shot with a recurve. And I'm like, well, this is stupid. It's like, they give you a better like season to use this traditional thing? Nope. This is stupid. Give me that. Yeah.
And then you went and picked up your AR-15 with a red dot on it, and you shot
worst season.
You shot,
worst season.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, give me a better season.
Now I like the justification. You thought about that answer before you said it.
It's authentically my reasoning. There were 2 reasons I went back to a compound. One, you're not giving me a better season to use an inferior piece of equipment. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And 95+% of everybody I was going to deal with shot a compound.
So next you're going to go to a crossbow?
Harder to relate
crossbow
to.
Up next?
I'm going to do videos on them.
You should do videos on them.
I am going to.
You're going to use them?
I might. I haven't decided 100%, but I'll definitely do videos on them.
You know what we should do is... There's got to be some sort of challenge that there could be with the crossbow.
That with a thermal.
Yeah.
It's on like Donkey Kong.
You know what? That would be actually super fun. Go down to Texas and just whack some pigs with a thermal out of one, shooting them crazy distances. Ooh. Comment below if you'd like to see that. What distances would you like us to shoot at pigs at?
I feel like I'm still making faces.
You know what? This is actually super sweet.
That was on the sweeter side.
Yeah, it's on the sweeter side. So then to go from this to this, it's kind of gnarly.
That's gnarly, period.
I wish we were outside smoking a cigar. Because a cigar with this would be nice. But I would get in bed tonight smelling like Ardbeg and cigar, and my wife would shit.
Your wife would tell you to go sleep on the
She
couch.
would not be happy. Okay, number 3. How to choose draw weight and length. So when somebody's new, like when you have like a new guy walking who's 5'10", like a normal sized dude for a compound bow, and he's like, I've never done this before, but I want to get started. Sure. What are you starting him out with draw weight wise? Like to just let him try something?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is measure his draw length, so I know how long the bow has to be set at.
Okay.
And
which makes sense.
To do that, I'm going to measure his wingspan across his back in a straight line divided by 2.5.
He stretches his arm straight
out. As far
out.
as you can go. I tell him, pretend like it's the combine and you're going to get an extra $1 million if you got another inch. Stretch as far as you can.
Okay, all right.
Right? And then take that number divided by 2.5.
Okay.
That's the draw length you set the bow at to start with. It's a real simple, easy way to do it, and it's accurate 98% of the time.
Okay.
Very right. And then I would take a bow that's relatively adjustable and back it down a ways, and then have them start pulling
How far
back.
though? Like based on the build of a guy, like a normal guy like me.
Adult male, I'd probably never shot before. I'd probably move it down to 50, 55 pounds.
Okay.
To start and say, okay. And then we're trying it out, which mind you, there's one other thing we would have done here too before we ever adjusted a bow is we check your eye dominance to know what your dominant eye is.
You just have them do the triangle test?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I do the triangle test, and then based off of whether you come to your right eye or left eye, you're getting a righty bow or a lefty bow.
Yep. That makes sense.
I don't care what your hand dominance is. Your eye dominance is what matters.
Okay.
Okay. And then set it at like 50, 55 pounds.
Yeah. Okay. 50.
Put you in the range, have you draw it back and say, okay, keep the tip of your arrow on the target while you draw it back.
Okay.
And if you can, you're okay at that weight. If you can't keep it on, if you're doing this to get it back, back it down.
Okay.
You want to develop good technique and good form before you develop strength.
That makes total sense.
So that's how you would determine those things.
Okay. So if somebody was trying to build up strength, do you like, I mean, is that kind of like the standard? Like pick a point on the target and then draw your arrow and bump it up like that? Because like I feel like I could probably draw a 100-pound bow if I did all the monkeying. You know, like if
you're gonna have an ability to pull more weight if you can manipulate it all over the place.
Yeah.
But it's not that big a difference traditionally. Like you could probably pull 80s now and relatively keep it on the bail. So you can pull another 10 to 20 pounds if going crazy, maybe on a good day.
Yeah.
Right.
Once them all stretched out and stuff.
Yeah. But if the idea is that you're teaching them a premise of what it's supposed to look like, right? So you should always keep your bow pointed. I mean, it's not uncommon to come up and come down as you draw it back because you letting gravity help you, right? But in general, it's can you keep it on the bill when you draw it back? Because the sooner you get it back to full draw and have it pointed at the target, the less time you're at full draw. So you're not running out of oxygen while you're sitting there trying to get through your shot process.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people also struggle with, like if I was a younger guy, 25 years old, and I was drawing a 50-pound bow, and I watched a bunch of videos of dudes like Cam Hanes drawing 90-pound bows, maybe I would be like, my dick's so small. Like I would feel really bad. And I don't, but that's, but that's not really what, like, it's so much better to learn. And this is part of what I wish I would have learned. I wish I would have taken lessons, and I wish I would have learned the proper steps to do all this, because then the draw weight would have just increased naturally and I would have been more accurate.
That's right.
Like I focused on stupid stuff that was way out of order, I feel like, when I was learning how to do this.
Right.
So I don't know, but that's not what people are asking about. Well, that's not true. They do. Number 6 is how to improve accuracy, but we're going to get there. All right. Number 4, when to replace bowstrings. This should be a short answer. Like we don't have to go into this for a lot of detail.
Okay. Well, it depends on if you're using the bow a lot or not.
I mean, is there generally like an amount of shots?
If you're using
what
your
if
bow,
it's a zebra string on a Matthews?
like probably the day you get it, you need to replace it. If you're using your bow regularly, like 3 times a week or that sort of thing, I would recommend somebody change them every year, because that you can't really tell a lot of times that they're going to fail when they do. And when a string fails, it usually damages the bow in some way. That's going to cost a lot more than replacing your strings. Normal guideline of just visually looking at it, no information of how much it's been shot. I try to look over the strings and the fibers and see if they look heavily frayed at any point, and if the servings are separating at any point. And that's kind of the guideline.
Yeah.
And if they are, your recommendation should be to replace it. Whether you choose to or not, that's up to you. But if I see serving separation and heavy frayage, I'm telling you to replace it.
What's funny is I generally see guys that either are replacing their bows or strings like well ahead of time. Like they would be like, you know what, I want the new Gas X strings because I want to try to get that 5 extra feet per second. Yeah, your face is horrible.
Yeah, that one didn't go down right.
Or
I didn't have my method down right, and it hit the back of my throat, and I was like,
that's what she said. So if I see people that have like a 10-year-old bow and the strings,
they look fine.
It's just horribly frayed. The freaking peeps backwards. The D loop looks the D loop's like made of metal. Like it's one of those types of things. All right, so that's fair on the bowstrings. Okay, does archery improve health?
Well, I can attest to, there's a lot of instances where I've had people tell me that it improved their mental health, and that's a version of health. So for sure. It is a version of fitness, right? I mean, you are doing a calisthenic, so you're pulling something back and you're walking and pulling arrows and coming back. I mean, it absolutely is health.
Yeah.
100%.
I totally agree. And I think the mental health aspect of it can't be overstated.
Yeah.
Like, there is when you really get into it, there is a meditative state that you can get into. There's almost like a flow state that you can actually achieve.
Clears your mind.
Exactly. Because you have to be in it. Like you have to be, you can't be thinking about work. You can't be thinking about your wife. You can't be thinking about any of that stuff. If you actually want to do it correctly,
right,
you got to be in it. And that's one of the, I don't know, that's one of those things where like, I feel like even if I'm having kind of a bad day, I go shoot arrows and maybe the first 5 or 10 arrows like really suck because I've got the weight of the day on me.
Yeah. It's still in your brain. You haven't cleared it out yet.
But once my body kind of warms up to like, here's what we're doing, then the mind pairs with the body and like, it's nice.
Focuses in.
It's nice.
Yeah.
And if I were to take my shirt off and take a snapshot of just my shoulder blades up, I look so good.
Yeah.
The rest of the body, it's not so nice.
Yeah.
It's not so good. But that part,
I could. Yeah, I'd probably have a similar visual there on myself. Yeah.
it is funny. Yeah. All right. I'll move on to the next one. Okay. How to improve accuracy. Practice regularly and use training tools is what ChatGPT says. How to improve accuracy. This is a big one because I remember when I started, I didn't understand what a good group was at what distance. Like, what's a good group at 20 yards?
A quarter.
Okay.
Probably.
So if somebody is not stacking arrows at in a quarter size,
that's probably a little
that's a
demanding.
great group.
That's a great group. Yeah. So
Ping pong ball.
Oh yeah, ping pong ball is probably still pretty dang good.
Okay.
I don't know if I want to go all the way up to it. Racquetball is probably that. Racquetball's fair.
Racquetball is like max.
I'd say racquetball's fair.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good group for 20 yards.
For 20.
Yeah.
All right. So, because I think that being results oriented like that, like if I would have understood that like a racquetball was a good group at 20, I would have practiced to like get a racquetball.
Right.
I'd have been like, okay, racquetball is the standard. That's what I need to get to. Now I need to go to the fundamentals to understand what it takes to get to racquetball. What does my stance have to look like? What are my hips doing? What are my shoulders doing? What's my draw look like? Where are my shoulders set? What's my grip look like? What's my anchor look like? Like when you actually stack all of archery on top of itself, then you get to racquetball.
That's right.
If you are new, I'm curious about this. If you're a new archer and you've got like you go buy your new aluminum Hoyt, how much more accurate are you going to be if you just use the little stubby stabilizer that they sell with it versus going and buying a 15-inch bar?
I'm willing to bet you're going to see 5-10% increase in accuracy with a longer stabilizer.
5 to 10%? That's it?
Out of the gate.
Yeah, out of the gate. That's what I'm talking about.
Out of the gate, yeah.
Okay.
I think you'll see 5-10% improvement.
Okay. I mean, I'm curious to like, I guess that just depends on what your income is. Like if you're willing to spend, $150. What do you charge for your 15-inch bars?
I think they're 89.
89 bucks?
89 or 99 bucks.
Okay, well, you can find it at podiumarcher.com for all your archery needs. By the way, Josh is very kind and he keeps saying go shop at your local shop, but I don't want you to do that. I want you to go to podiumarcher.com and use discount code BMAC. Again, that's discount code BMAC for 10% off all your archery needs. I get a portion of that and it's going to actually go into a little fund that's going to send Josh and I on a hunt somewhere, potentially with one of you guys, or I might just use the money and buy watches. We don't know.
There's that.
We don't know what's going to happen. Okay. What kind of maintenance, like regular maintenance, is needed on a bow?
Well, string replacements periodically based off of wear. They'd probably tell you to wax your string, but
it does say that.
Yeah, it says to wax your string, I'm sure, but I have more of a philosophy because adding wax to your string changes the speed that it goes out at, right? So it's not going to be as consistent. So I would rather let my string wear and replace it more often than attempt to prolong the life of it. Outside of that, a tune-up once a year is probably wise. If you don't know how to tune your bow yourself, have it looked at. Make sure everything's in line.
And at a tune-up, they're going to just like make sure that the bow's in time.
Check your timing, check your knock height, check your orientation, run it through paper, that kind of stuff.
Okay, that makes sense.
Standard maintenance upkeep, right? If you know how to do it yourself, that's fine. But if you don't, you probably ought to have it looked at once a year.
Yeah, but I feel like that's one of those things where if somebody is new, I don't know. I'm going to deviate a little bit.
Sure.
With people who get into hobbies, like if you get into golf or you get into, I don't know, you name the hobby. Like for archery, you could probably spend $1,000 and get all the tools that you needed to work on your own stuff. I think it's 1,000, 1,500 maybe?
1,000's probably not too far off, depending on how particular you're trying to get with what you're doing.
So I think about how many times I've gone out and I've done something and I've been like, I just want to check the timing on the bow to just make sure that I'm good. And then I go run and then I check the timing on the bow and I'll shoot through paper. And it takes me 5 minutes to do that because I've got the stuff set up.
Yeah.
So I've got the $500 press set up. I don't know what they charge now, but like I feel like that's what I paid for back in the day. And then I shot through my little paper tuner, papertuner.com, like that little paper tuner thing that the dude made.
Yep.
I shoot through that thing. And then I just have like this peace of mind of like, okay,
it's good.
it's me today.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's definitely beneficial for sure. It's just some of the draw boards that have existed in the past don't quite work right.
I know. And I need to change it. Like, okay, I saw a video of yours where Last Chance came up with that new dropped handle, basically like adjustable handle.
What
do you think
was wrong with their draw board?
Yeah, exactly. But I've got the old school version of it.
Yeah.
And so it's freaking me out. You're making me self-conscious.
It works right.
So I should buy it.
Or you could buy mine.
Ooh. Does it attach to the Last Chance?
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay. Podiumarcher.com, 10% off, discount code BMAC. No, that's like a legitimate thing. Once you brought that up in your videos, now I'm actually legitimately self-conscious and I like push the bow and like I do all sorts of like just different
Trying to get it to actually
well,
time
I
out
just am
correctly.
curious, like slight manipulations to be like, okay, do I think I'm out? Whatever. And then I'll throw broadheads on there. If I really want to tune, that's where like to me the true tuning comes in with broadhead tuning.
100%.
And so I can find out if my timing is off.
Yeah, paper tuning is a basic guideline of starting.
Yeah.
Right. And then as soon as you get that good, if you're going to shoot fixed blade broadheads, I'd immediately start shooting a broadhead and a field point. See where they go. Make your adjustments from there.
Do you
Because that, at the end of the day, is a timed bow, a tuned bow. If those two things hit in the same spot, you are correct.
Yeah. So do you skip like bear shaft tuning and all that stuff? I do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I did bear shaft for a while and I was like, why am I doing this? Because as soon as I throw broadheads on the front, I'm changing stuff more again. This just feels like an intermediate step.
It is. The only reason you paper tune is to make sure when you shoot a broadhead in a field point, your broadhead doesn't fly sideways and snap your arrow in half. That's it. Like, and honestly, if I paper tune and I know I'm going to broadhead tune, I get it within the perimeter of fletchings or relatively close, and then I immediately start shooting that.
Yeah.
Just get it close. You're going to move it anyway. Why are you trying to get it like anally perfect if you're immediately going to move it again anyway?
And you are immediately going to move it again.
Yeah, you are going to no matter what.
Okay. All right. So starting from the jump,
yeah,
you set the rest of the bow at 13/16.
Yep.
And then you're adjusting to get a tune or to get a bullet hole through paper. That's the goal. But you're moving the cams in order to get there.
Assuming they are adjustable. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So assuming they're not adjustable, what we're talking about is a lower end bow.
That just depends on the era. Right. So there's 10 years ago, almost no wheels were adjustable.
Yeah. Right? Yokes. Yeah. Okay.
So you twist a yoke.
Yeah, but you're still like, I mean, the wheels are still adjusting based on that.
You are, but then they also had bows that didn't have yokes. There just was no adjustments.
And then you're just adjusting the rest?
You have to adjust the rest.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Like, and if you have one of those bows that you can't adjust that way.
Yeah.
But that's, to me, that kind of sucks. Because in this conversation where we're talking about like getting people in, I feel like you should skip that part. I feel like you should skip the part of like buying a bow that's so low end that you can't tune it to be both in time and that you can't tune it where the rest stays where it's supposed to. And you're basically getting the thing to let's say ultimately shoot broadheads with field points by using cam lean.
Yeah. That's ideal.
So to me, there's
so few bows that you can actually do that with accurately. Because so in order to be able to tune a broadhead to a field point with cam lean, you need to be able to minutely move the cam lean. You know how many bows do that?
Elite.
Yep.
Darton.
Yep.
Matthews now.
The current ones.
Bowtech now.
Yep.
Well, Bowtech has forever. In the last 5 years. Not Hoyt.
Nope.
Not Prime.
Nope. Not PSE.
Okay. And I'm assuming that it's probably not some of the lower level stuff.
None of the lower level stuff, and not bear.
And not bear.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like a 50-50 swap.
Yeah,
right,
but it's
on what's
also
available.
like typically their A-level stuff. So like you now with Bowtech, you could go back 4 or 5 years, 5 or 6 years probably for deadlock now.
Yeah, I think it was about 6 years ago it first came out.
Because that's you could genuinely leave the rest perfectly still, and you could adjust.
Yep.
But I feel like that's kind of what you want ultimately. Like, I don't know. All right, so let's assume that you've got a bow that basically you were able to get the cams. If you're using top hats or you're using shims, you know, because like Prime and Hoyt and Matthews up until now, it was top hats or shims.
Right.
And you were getting super close. And then you were having to adjust the rest
And
just
you fudge
slightly.
the rest a little bit.
Just just slightly.
Yeah.
You get a tear through paper, or you get a bullet hole through paper. How many arrows are you shooting? Like, are you just you shoot one through paper and then you go, thank God I got it, and then you run outside and you go like you're like good forever? Or are you shooting your whole dozen through paper?
Are we broadhead tuning?
Yeah.
Just one.
Just one?
If we're broadhead tuning.
Okay. I'm trying to think if I feel like I feel like in the past I've shot all my dozen through paper, because then I would knock tune if something was out.
That's fair.
So what I would do basically,
But are you going to shoot those 12 arrows with broadheads on them?
likely,
Then you're going to see it then.
that's true. That's true. So that might be a step that I would be
So
like,
it's probably a redundant step.
yeah, that's probably true. And I'm probably going to see it more exaggerated with a broadhead.
Way more exaggerated.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
It's going to be kind of blatantly obvious.
Yeah. So that's fair. So shoot one through paper, get a bullet hole. And we're talking about tuning progression again for like just basically cutting through all the shit and getting to like what the ultimate goal is, which is putting a broadhead through an animal. Bullet through paper, immediately go outside and then strap a broadhead onto that thing.
Yep.
Spin it.
Spin it, make sure it's straight.
Spin it.
Because if it's not straight, you're
Vital.
wasting your time.
Vital.
It's actually the most important part of all arrow build.
Okay.
Is that it's straight out of the end of the arrow.
So
100%.
when you spin it,
Yes.
you had argued with me that on a single bevel, I couldn't see if it spins straight.
Correct.
I haven't tested it, but it freaks me out, and I think
You're not
about
gonna
it
be able
at
to tell
least every day.
It's there's not a definite point.
Okay.
So it's like you have to see it moving, but know that that's how much it moves.
Okay.
That's
I gotta look at this and figure it out, because it's freaking my brain out.
Yeah.
Is that still rolling?
Yep.
All right. So let's assume that I'm using a double bevel,
Okay.
like something that you can see the point.
Yep.
How much
What are the points
variation?
in the middle of the broadhead? Is
Yeah.
that what you mean?
Yeah. How much variation? How much wobble?
None.
Zero.
Zero.
That's exactly what I think too.
Yeah,
I
you
think
need
if I
zero.
can visually see wobble,
It's
if I
gonna
can
fly like
visually
that.
see that that thing moving a little bit, I know for a fact
it's gonna do that
my
in
groups are
flight.
going to be wider.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So then you go outside. Where do you start?
For broadheads?
Yeah.
20.
20. Okay. So as long as you feel like you've got a hole through paper,
Got a hole through paper and my sight set at 20 yards.
set at 20.
Yeah, I'll shoot a broadhead and a field point at 20 yards. Because if you got a hole through paper and your broadhead straight out of your arrow, you're going to hit on the target somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I agree with you.
You're never going to be off by more than 3-4 inches at 20 yards.
I do typically start at 10 just because I'm paranoid,
Sure.
probably. That's what I do.
Sure.
All right. And then it's shoot a broadhead first. And then what I have learned is basically like on the matrix targets, the dots are hexagons. So I'll aim at like a corner of one of the hexagons and I'll shoot my broadhead into that. And then I'll choose an entirely different hexagon and shoot at that same exact corner. Because I don't want to stack arrows. I just don't want to damage the nocks. I don't want to damage the fletchings.
Sure.
So like as everything gets closer together, I'm still not shooting. When people talk about shooting your field tips and your broadheads together.
No, I get you. Yeah, you're picking two different reference points and shooting at them and then measuring the difference off of that.
But what I didn't understand that like when I first started doing this. And so I was just jacking the crap out of all my arrows because I was like, good, they're slapping together. That's the point. And then like I'd damage one of the fletchings on one of the arrows. And then when I would refletch, I would just refletch that one fletching. And then it wouldn't fly quite the same. You know what I'm saying? Because it wasn't quite in the right position.
Wasn't quite exactly the same. So it's not going to do the same thing. Yeah.
All right. So when you are broadhead tuning, this is where I feel like there may be some deviation. So let's say you're having, you're hitting within like a half inch. Your field tips and your broadheads are hitting within a half an inch of each other. So like we're at ping pong ball at 20 and you're feeling good. What's the next step for you?
Well, if that's the case and I feel like they're hitting in the same spot, I'd just stretch it out farther. I'd probably go to 50.
Okay.
Yeah. If I have a sight tape and I know my sight tape's relatively right, I'd go from 20 to 50, make sure it's right at 50, and then 80, and then just keep going every 20 or 30 yards.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So at what point are you
somewhere between 80 and 120? They're going to separate.
That was the next step.
Depending on how fast you're shooting,
is because you're going to back to a certain point and you're creating. There's drag with the or what you assholes call lift. With the broadhead,
assholes.
So the engineers that somehow
engineers call drag lift. I don't know why.
Yeah, whatever
but they do.
It just makes no sense. So, but at a certain point, the broadhead is going to start hitting lower than the field point because it's going to be there's going to be more air. That's
more resistance.
Yeah, more resistance through the air.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Sure.
But I feel like if somebody's new, how far back do you think they should try to work to basically get that field point and that broadhead? I'm talking somebody who like this is their first season.
20 yards.
20 max?
Get the broadhead and the field point to hit the same. And then I don't think you're reasonably going to shoot past 50, period.
Yeah.
Like, and probably 40.
That's
because you've got to get stamina in there. You got to get consistency in there over time. You got to get muscle memory in there over time before you can shoot beyond that.
And as you're increasing poundage, so it's like let's say you start with 50.
It's all going to change.
And you go to 55 and then 60.
Yep.
When you hit 60, it's very possible that those arrows that aren't spined correctly, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's the hard part.
I love it.
Because you're constantly changing the variables, so everything changes. Just like your sight tape's going to be different, your tune's going to be different, the whole thing's going to be different.
Yeah. But I think that there should be some peace in that journey. And so like I didn't understand that was the case.
Right.
I didn't understand that as I increased my poundage, the arrows that I was shooting before, I would be that would now be underspined at a certain point. And so I think I started with 400 spine arrows.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I was probably shooting 55 pounds.
Sure.
50 pounds.
To be expected.
Yeah. And then so as I go up and all of a sudden my groups are getting worse.
Yeah.
And I can't get broadheads to work because I'm shooting 70 pounds and I'm sure it's drawing horribly, you know, but I'm drawing at 70 pounds at 30 inch draw length and I can't get a 400 spine arrow to tune. And I didn't know, like, I don't know if it's square. I've never spun it, you know, so like those little intricacies that we talked about are really important so that people don't have a crappy, frustrating experience.
That's right.
Yeah.
Once again, straight out of the end of the arrow is the most important thing.
Straight out of the end of the arrow. Who do you feel like is an online resource that people can watch? Like, do you have any videos, like personally, do you feel like you have any videos on shooting technique from like zero, from the jump?
I have videos that are broken down on certain things, like how to grip a bow, what's an anchor point, how to build an arrow, you know, basic things that are decent starter points.
You know what you need to do?
Working on more of those.
Is you need like a Josh's School of Knock, but you can't call it School of Knock, but that's what you need, one of those things. Because, dude, you could go into the tuning stuff. I feel like it like way more in depth, and I feel like it could be really like great.
I intend to add all that stuff over time and then have folders that you can go into.
That's what it would be.
It
would need to be in a folder that basically somebody could watch it though in succession. Because to me, when I went through John Dudley's School of Knock stuff, I feel like that was another layer of understanding, and again, just like peace in the process of understanding, like, oh, I was doing this part right, but I wasn't doing this part right, and now I've got a teacher who I found that like I I learned that this is proper, that this is the whatever, this is the right way to do it. Or I knew that I was deviating from something, but I was deviating on purpose.
Yeah.
So, all right. That's good. That's good. All right. Do you have anything else that you want to say about... I don't know that ChatGPT was correct, by the way. It's goofy to me that these would be the things that people search for archery.
That actually would be relatively common, I would think.
You think?
Well, realistically, like archery is becoming popular and it's becoming more of a mainstream thing. So you're probably going to see it more in bigger cities and things like that, where you're not even going to be thinking about hunting. So the questions not being related to hunting does make a lot of sense to me.
And I guess, there's like a lot of kids movies and stuff like that came out where there might be like kids searching stuff and they're not necessarily going to be like bloodthirsty little vermin.
There is that. Yeah.
Valid.
Yeah. So I think that was good. I think that was good.
Okay.
Good little run.
Cool. Rock and roll. Well, follow Josh, Podium Archer, on Instagram. Check us out, Nashville North Archery.com, podiumarcher.com, which is the kind of main. Does Nashville North Archery.com funnel over to Podium?
No, it's just...
It does a standalone?
It's still at standalone. We haven't made it funnel over yet. It was kind of like a landing page. Here's who we are. Here's the address. Here's a phone number. Here's when we're opening.
Got it.
Thing.
Okay.
Haven't changed it over since then.
All right. Yeah. So that's Josh's new shop here in the South, in the Southeast. Dear old sweet Tennessee, because he's been in Washington forever, but this is his second location. Follow me at Brandon McDonald _archery. Again, if you made it this far, like and subscribe. Use discount code BMAC. Send me to Hawaii hunting with this guy, podiumarcher.com. Thanks for watching.
Woo!